Now, there is actually a really good answer to this question because it comes down to what's called the BEA, which is the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Now, the BEA actually has a website that shows all of this information publicly, but nobody ever goes there and pays attention to it because they're not nerds like me. But here's how it works, because whether we're in a recession or not is measured by something called the GDP, which is the gross domestic product, and all that is a measure of the market value of all the stuff that a country makes per year. That's it. And it's measured in quarters, in blocks of 3 months. So 4 quarters per year. Simple. Now, here's where it's actually going to blow your mind, because these estimates are given to us 3 times, each one being a little bit more accurate because it's really hard to measure the GDP, so they have to give us several estimates. Now, the first one is the one the market pays attention to the most because it's the one they spend the most time gathering all that data, and that's called the advance estimate. Now, this one is typically given 4 weeks after the first quarter ends. So, for example, for this year's first quarter, which lasted from January to March, they gave us that GDP information on April 28th, exactly 4 weeks later. That's when the GDP results came in for that advance estimate. And in that report, they said that the GDP was negative 1.4%. And that scared investors, so they started selling off their stocks, their crypto, some real estate, because they're afraid of the dreaded recession. And a recession happens when we get 2 negative GDP reports back to back. Now, here's the catch. These numbers don't have to be anything specific. They just have to be negative 2 quarters in a row, and that's a recession, which is why they have to give us multiple estimates to make sure that it's as accurate as possible. But also because data doesn't come in all at once. It trickles in as corporations report earnings, taxes, and things like that. Which is why on May 26th, which has already happened, we got our second estimate for that first quarter. And in that new document, they basically said, guys, never mind, we're not down 1.4%. Actually, it's a little worse than we thought. We're down 1.5%. So this scared investors even more, and they sold off a little bit more. That's how it works. Now, on June 29th, we're going to get our third GDP estimate for that first quarter. Now, in that document, it could tell us that the GDP is even worse, which means the market will sell off even more. It could stay the same, or it could improve, but chances are it's still going to stay negative. Now, June 29th will not tell us whether we're in a recession or not. But here's exactly when we'll find out. That'll be at 8:30 a.m. on July 28th. That's when the BEA will release their second quarter advance estimate, and it's at that point we'll have Judgment Day. So let's cross our fingers and hope that we don't get a negative GDP, because if that's the case, first quarter was negative, and if second quarter is negative, that's the recession, and that's when the media will start telling us about it.